Welcome to All Power to the Developing, a podcast of the Eastside Institute, where social justice, human development, and community building come together. This is where you will meet activists, artists, teachers, scholars, helpers, and healers who are bringing creativity, hope, and possibility to individuals and communities all over the world. Welcome everyone to this episode of All Power to the Developing. This is your host, Desire Wanden, Des for short. And firstly, I would like to wish everyone a happy new year. Thank you for all your support in 2023 for the podcast of All Power to the Developing. We loved it, and we have a lot more we have in store for you in the year of 2024. Thank you for your continued support. Today is a very special day. I have some great guests. Today, we're going to be diving into a global movement that combines the universal language of football with social change. Founded in 2003, this extraordinary initiative has been using the power of sport to transform the lives of people experiencing homelessness. I have with me co-founder of the Homeless World Cup, Mel Young, and a former player, now a referee. That's awesome, Sarah Frohwein. How are you guys doing today?
Great. Good to see you.
Yes.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you for being here with us. Mel and Sarah, you first came to my attention as a producer for Performing the World, which you were a part of. Performing the World is our flagship festival, our flagship event that we hold. And I was just so remarked by this organization using the game of soccer to just combat this major issue we're having of homelessness. So I always had it in my mind, man, I really want to interview these people because this seems very extraordinary. And now we're here today. So let's get with it. Can you kind of share the story of the inception behind the Homeless World Cup and what initially got you inspired, Mel?
Well, I've been working with homeless people since 1993 with the Big Issue magazine in Scotland, which is a magazine sold by homeless people with them keeping the majority of the cover price, and then involved in the development of street papers in different countries in the world. And an organization had been formed, which was really a trade association for street papers for homeless people around the world, called the International Network of Street Papers. And the street papers, some of us managed to meet once a year to exchange ideas and share experiences. And at this conference we were having in 2001, myself and a colleague called Harold Schmidt he ran a paper in Austria in a city called Graz. We were talking after the conference about how good it had been and inspiring, and we learned so much, but there was no homeless people there, only editors or founders and so on. And how could we involve homeless people in the same way we were being inspired? So we talked about all sorts of different ideas over a beer, and we really couldn't come up with any suggestions. And there were all sorts of problems, including the problem of language. And we said, there is an international language, which is called football, which I think in the US you guys called soccer. And we were both passionate football fans. Harold, in fact, had played a bit of semi-professional football, and we knew its power. And in both of our organizations, some of the homeless sellers had formed little soccer teams or football teams who were playing. And we knew it was a very, very powerful tool. So we said, hey, look, why don't we have a game I'm from Scotland and he was from Austria, and we were mucking around and shook hands. There was going to be a game, and I said, Scotland's going to win, and he said, Austria's going to win, blah, blah, blah. And then we said, look, why don't we just invite lots of other countries to come, and we'll call it the Homeless World Cup. So we were having great fun, in the creative sense. In the next day, we met in the hotel at a breakfast, and we said, hey, look, this is a great conversation. But sometimes these type of conversations, they just kind of stay in the bar or stay in the room and nothing ever happens. So will we make it happen? And so we said, hey, yeah, let's do that. We think the idea is so good, let's make it happen. And so we had the first event in 2003, which kind of took a lot of organizing, and it was really an outstanding success. And by that success, we mean that our aim is to get homeless people's lives changed and away from being homeless. And, the results we had on that, a very high percentage of people getting off the streets as a result, and a lot of people coming to watch. So it was a big success in that regard, as far as we were concerned. And so therefore we just have kept doing more. Now, obviously behind all that, there's a huge, long story. But in a nutshell, that's what's happened. And then, of course, since then, we've kept building it. And now we estimate over 1.2 million people in the 70 odd countries where we have partners working on the ground have changed their lives as a result of just being involved in this soccer event. And so it's very impactful. And because of that, we keep on doing what we're doing.
Yeah. I want to rewind a bit, Mel, because before you even got into the Homeless World Cup, you said that you were working with a publication that was dealing with the homeless. What is it about yourself that has this initiative to deal with the homeless? Like, what is it in your personal history, your personal life, that you developed this need or want to work with this population?
I mean, I'm not been homeless myself, luckily, but I've always been very passionate about what I would call social justice. And, I don't think anybody in the world should be homeless. I just think, how on earth have we created a system? So my background is working as a journalist, and I saw a magazine which started in London when I was visiting there doing a story or something. And I thought, what I can do is use some of my journalist skills to create a magazine similar in Scotland. And that would be a contribution. And I kind of firmly believe that if everybody makes small contributions, then that's how you create change. It doesn't have to be big things, but kind of small things. So myself and a friend, we started the magazine, and it took off. It was successful, and so we kept doing it, and then learned a great deal and grew a great deal. So it came from my kind of burning passion about there shouldn't be inequalities and exclusion in the world, and then using a skill to develop it. And then, of course, the whole thing's grown out of that. So that's where it's come from. And, in that journey, I've learned a great deal. I mean, I'm a great believer in you can learn from anybody. So you learn from a professor, of course, somebody who's very clever, you sit and listen to them, but also you can learn from homeless people as well, and who have insights and stories to tell that are important that people listen to. And within their voices, you can find solutions. And one of those big learnings for me was about, how you try to create family through what you're doing. And that's what we did with the magazine and what we continue to do with the football. And that's one of many key facets about what we're about. So that's really where I'm coming from. And I'm still as passionate about this issue now as I was then, but probably even more determined, because I look at the system in the world that's creating homelessness, and the more crazy this is, we don't have to have it. It's a system failure, basically, and we can fix it if we want to.
Yeah, we're gonna get deeper into that, because that's actually something I want to get into, because it seems like no matter how many buildings are built, no matter how many new complexes, new condos, new apartments, affordable housing, estates, as they say in the UK, that it still seems that people can't find a place to live, and it seems it's getting more terrible. I want to shift over to you, Sarah, a little bit. Unfortunately, you dealt with homelessness. Could you share with us a little of the circumstance you dealt with, and maybe how that led you into initially discovering the Homeless World Cup?
Mine was, luckily enough, only a temporary form of homelessness. My form of homelessness was just surface surfing, because we were trying to buy a property and it kind of flopped to where the homeowner wouldn't move out of their house. So then we've already left our old property. So then I was left then with my 1-year-old daughter, me and my partner, with no housing. We had nowhere to go at the time. So we ended up putting everything that we owned into my mother-in-law's house. And we were literally just there on the sofa for months, waiting for property. So the mental health kicked in. Stress, I had no job at the time. it just built up from there and there. And then it got to the point where my mental health decreased so badly. I got taken into a hospital near me for mental health issues that they then also helped me find resources up in a little place up near the house I was going to move into, where they sort of had resources. And lucky enough, one of the workers who were helping out there knew of the football team, Street Football Wales, and they provided us with information. And they were like, "Oh, do you know you could play for a four-side and it'll help your mental health?" Because I'm not very one for the not the group activities you kind of do. It wasn't for me. It wasn't helping my side of mental health. It was the more physical, doing things, getting outside, helped me a bit. Then they found that resource so much easier. So I signed straight up to Street Football Wales, and they were like, so you've had homelessness recently? And I was like, yeah. And they're like, oh, have you ever thought about trying out for our homeless World Cup? And I was like, at that point, I was like, I've never heard of it. Wasn't heard of, because I've never been in that situation to known of the organisation. They were like, how about you come and try out? And then within 3 months, tried out. And then I found out I was going to Oslo in 2017. And it was like, I went from like rock bottom to like a superstar within like 3 months. It's like your face was everywhere. There was advertisement going on. You were doing like charity organisations to try to raise funds to go away. It just makes so much of a difference where they need to sort of understand it, where some people work differently, where the football or soccer helps people come out of the shell much better than it would be productive, more than other people going into meetings or therapy. I find in my case, that is a form of therapy, doing football. And it just helped so much. But it's the understanding I find as well for the homeless side of it is people understanding the different forms of homelessness. It's like, I was very, very lucky in my circumstance not to be put on the streets. I was lucky I had the family, the resources, but not everyone seems to have that. And hearing everyone's stories then within Street Football Wales was amazing. Like, they've come from nothing, they had nothing, to where when they came to training, they would get like nil booster points. If they come to training every week, they could get free togs, free gloves. And it's like it was a nice boost for them. So I would say in the long run, the Homeless World Cup has meant everything for me. It's like in the outlong, I've got a job again. I've got finally, obviously, got my home now. And I'm just more productive in the mental health side. It's been amazing.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that.
No problem.
You said something. You said it raises awareness for the different types of homeless. Here in New York City, we're having, a bit of a homeless problem amongst many states in the United States. And I think people have this idea that a homeless person is a person with their clothes shredded and on the floor with a cup. And this is the definitive image of what a homeless person is. But you just spoke of yourself going through a situation that led you to homelessness. There's, of course, people with transitional housing. There's, of course, military vets. There's everything in between. Could you give us a little bit more there in the different forms? And also, Mel, you could add on to this, just the different faces of homelessness, how it looks, how it is for different people.
Yeah, it's like, obviously in my circumstances, classed as what we call the sofa surfing, where you haven't got a set home, your comfort area. It's you having to provide on others to support you. You haven't got your own place to support yourself. And then I've got others where you obviously on the streets. That could be due of eviction, lack of money, loss of job, mental health. And you got other people then who have physically having to run away to go on the streets. They prefer to be on the streets than be at home. It's understanding they're not on the streets because they want to be on the streets. They're not going to hostels. They're not going to hotels for the joy of it. It's understanding that they're there because they're obviously trying to get away from something. It's like what you said about the veterans. Some of them feel more comfortable being out and about than they do being stuck at certain properties because they don't want to be shut down, locked down. They don't want to be restricted because it doesn't feel like it's theirs. And I find that's very hard for people to understand, that can be given something, you can be given a bed, but if it's not theirs, they don't feel comfortable taking it.
Yeah.
If it's not theirs, they don't feel like they've earned it, maybe. It's very hard for people to understand that side of things. It's not all about them being on substance use. It's not about them having like alcoholism. It could just be the general being scared to be elsewhere. And like I said before about the groups, they form their own families on the streets. They want to stick in with that group because they know what they got from them, and they don't want to change that because they know what support group they have around them. And I find that some people, if they try and move out from that circumstance, they'll be classed as being reject. You're thrown us away. Why are you traitor? It's like, no. It's very hard, I think, for some people who have been on the street for years to move back into society as what is classed as society, at least.
Mm-hmm.
They're so used to that is their life. Some people are so used to it, they don't want. Some people don't want to go into accommodation. That is their lives. That is their home, being there. So in that way, I can't think at the moment of different housing circumstances, but the main one is definitely those what I've spoken of.
Yeah. Wow. Mel, anything to add to that, or?
Yeah. I think it's very interesting what Sarah's saying. I mean, what I sometimes describe, there's a difference between houselessness and homelessness. And you mentioned earlier about the issues around, there's building going on of houses at the beginning of this interview. And it's true that the one cause of homelessness is the lack of physical property. But actually, the issues about homelessness, if you ask a child to talk about what's home, they'll talk about kind of, the family running around, mother, smell of soup in the kitchen, of fire, mucking around with your annoying brothers and sisters or whatever. And they won't talk about the door or the windows. And, so much of what we talk about then when we think about homelessness, we start talking about houselessness. Now, although that's in the mix there in terms of solutions, what Sarah's describing there is that you can have four walls, but actually they're very, very unpleasant because of whatever's happening there. And what you need is actually environments where people feel safe in terms of where they live. Now, in part, what we are doing with the soccer is creating safe environments where people feel they can come, be with other people and feel safe, and then hopefully move into safe accommodation. The second thing I probably want to say, just to add to this, because I've developed a kind of global understanding, is homelessness manifests itself in different ways in different parts of the world. And that can be dependent on all sorts of factors, including the weather, for example, and what political parties in power, the attitude of the police, the attitude of the public, the attitude, et cetera, all of these things that are different in different countries, in different parts of the world. And, for the Homeless World Cup, we accept the definition per country. So we can't get an international definition of this because it's too difficult. So, for example, in England, you can be in a homeless hostel, and according to charity definition, government definition, you're homeless. But in some African countries, they say if you have any shelter over your head, you're not homeless. So you've got to be outside. So we accept any definition going. And as I say, there's different, it manifests itself differently. But the one common factor I always find, regardless of what that difference is, if you look at a person who's homeless into their eyes, it's the same thing universally, globally. It's one of exclusion and not being part. And that is the psychological part of this that I think is so important when we do the football, making people feel part and changing that look in their eyes. So that whilst there's all these differences in the world, there's a commonality, absolutely standard, which is one of people just totally excluded from society.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you both of you for breaking that down, because I think it's a major prevalent issue that has one face or is viewed in a particular way. And the more we learn about the different incarnations of it, I think the more people are going to be enlightened and really start to tackle this global issue. So thank you. I want to speak a little bit more about Now, the sporting aspect, I mean, Sarah, what you just spoke of earlier, I mean, I even saw like this kind of really big smile on your face and this twinkle in your eye when you just described the environment that you were a part of, being a part of the Homeless World Cup. And then Mel, when we watched the video during Performing the World, that video was just amazing and everyone was having a good time and the pitches just looked really great. One thing about sports, while entertaining, while challenging us physically, could also bring the ugly side out in humanity, right? We know about racism in football. There's a winner, there's a loser, there's a lot of capitalism involved in it. And while at times it could feel inclusive to everyone, it could be exclusive too. So how did you build this very inclusive environment? And what were some of the was it your did you have particular ideas? Were there particular things that you felt with your partners that needed to be a part of this in order for it to be more of a positive thing? Like speak a little bit about that, Mel. How do you balance and how does the Homeless World Cup balance the intensity of sports with the humanistic aspect of what you're doing?
Yeah, so that's a good question, and one we spent a lot of time thinking about before we started this, and have developed it as we go on. But fundamentally, first of all, it's inclusive, so it's an inclusive game, and we created the game so that anybody can play at any standard. So it doesn't matter. You can be terrible at it, but be part of the team, or you can be very, very good at it. And we have across our different teams, people of different standards. So we could create an event where very quickly the good teams are in a week long event, they're playing against each other, and the not so good teams are playing against each other. And so everybody's finding their own level, if you like, and are able to participate. We wanted to have the competitive element in there because that's kind of normal. Otherwise, you just kind of be very patronizing. It's like, oh, you're homeless, so you can't play in a competitive game. Whereas sports are competitive, so it's competitive. The teams want to win. That's quite normal. And, we create a way in which by the end of the week, the two best teams are playing against each other for a position, and the two not so good teams are playing against for a position with each other. So you end up with a position between 1 and 48, but everybody gets the same medal, if you like. So it's competitive, but it's inclusive. So that's very, very important to us, that structure of the event. Then secondly, we create an atmosphere which is one of fair play, so that the managers and so on are instructing everybody to play in a way which is fair. And what's very interesting for us is the players are competitive when they want to win the game, and they don't like to lose, of course. But a minute or so or less after they've lost, they are hugging the other players that have won. And there's something about where the players have come from, the fact they've all come from homelessness, that actually brings them together as one group, one family, if you like. They maybe can't speak the same language. They definitely can't speak the same language, but they kind of understand each other automatically. And so an atmosphere is created whereby we're going to win, but we're going to win in a proper way. And then crucially for us, and this is where maybe Sarah could talk about, we have referees, and it's a contact sport, so you need referees. And these referees are very important for us, and they volunteer and from all over the world and come every year. But referee it in a way which isn't harsh. They are supportive of the players. They understand what's going on, and so you need order in anything, and you've got the order, but you've got it done in a way which is inclusive, so that we invent something which has values in it and which is played in a particular way, and which creates everyone to sing and dance together in the end. And that's what sports should be all about, in my view. It's very, very powerful. It's a really powerful tool to create change. And we create a way in which everybody's contributing. So I'm always saying, you might think referees are not relevant, but referees are really important to us because they are actually encompassing the attitude and values of our sport. And then we have success. And I tell you, I'm always saying to the professional side, you should come and watch this, because this is how sport should be played. we hardly get any red cards. And the red cards will be given if the players do something, but we hardly ever get any because it's not played in that way.
Wow. I mean, I feel like putting on a pair of boots right now and lacing them up and getting on the pitch. But we're going to take a short commercial break, and when we're back, we're going to learn some more about the Homeless World Cup. We're going to get on that pitch with Sarah, find out how it is being a former player and now a referee. And we're going to learn a little bit more about the Homeless World Cup. This is All Power to Developing, and we'll be right back after this short commercial break.
Hi, I'm Melissa Meyer, Associate Director of the Eastside Institute. Welcome to All Power to the Developing. I hope you're enjoying today's conversation. In each episode, we introduce you to some amazing performance activists, play revolutionaries, and developmentalists from around the world who talk to us about their creative grassroots efforts to build a better world. If you like what you hear, please follow and share the series. You can find us on Amazon, Spotify, and Podbean. We'd love to hear your comments and ideas. Like everything at the Institute, the growth of All Power to the Developing depends upon the people who create it and benefit from it. We hope you're one of them. Thanks for your support, and now back to our conversation.
All Power to the Developing. We are back. We are back with Mel Young and Sarah Frohwein, the Homeless World Cup. Mel, he was just kind of breaking down the spirit of the game and how he's able to balance the intensity of sports and the intensity that comes with all of it with the humanistic approach to what they're doing for the Homeless World Cup. Sarah, has a former player, I was a former player too. How long was your career?
1 year.
1 year. Oh, man.
I'm joking.
A debut.
I was playing for years before that, but more 11 aside. So
Yeah.
about from the age of maybe 10 till about 20,
Nice.
and then stopped.
Stop.
Had my daughter and then stopped. Then street football. Then
Yeah. How was it for you as a player, first of all, you spoke a little bit earlier about you being involved in and how just being a part of this whole process was able to kind of lift you out of where you were. Can you speak a little bit deeper about that and maybe what you saw from other players, other people that you met? And then what led you into transitioning? I mean, obviously the body breaks down, but what led you into going into a referee, and speak about that? You know, you're now on the pitch with the players. You have a different vantage point. You're able to see the game in a different way. You have the responsibility and the upkeep of making sure the game is played fairly and the rules are being engaged in the proper way. So speak a little bit about that experience. It's more than just being on the field. It's a pretty major role.
yeah, it was at the beginning. I started in 2017. There was hopefully a selection to be taken to Oslo in 2017. The tryouts were so intense because you only get to do the Homeless Cup once as a player. So it was this is my moment. If I don't do it now, never do it again. It's like, you can keep trying out every year, but once you've had your chance, that you've got to take it all in as much as you can. You literally just take the whole experience, and you're doing the tryouts and thinking, oh my God, these people have got maybe a better chance than me, panicking about things, but yet they're all in the same circumstances you are. It's like they all want to fight, and it gives you that oomph in it all, because you want to focus, you want to succeed in this. It gives you that motivation to want to do more instead of just being in your slump that you were in. So you go for all the tryouts, you waited a few weeks to see who gets to select, and the next minute I have a phone call, and I'm like thinking, oh God, this is when he tells me, no, you haven't got through. And he's like, you're going to Oslo. And I was like, oh my God. It just went into shock. And I was like, oh my God, it's amazing. And then you have to go to training every week. And it just got you back into a normal structure. Just being back in training, it gets you back into a pattern, gotten mental health better, eating habits, just being there. And the team, you get to know so much about them, you get to know their history, what they've been through. And it was just amazing learning about what others have been through and how comfortable people felt being in that small group, just being within a team, you think you would never must be spoke to these people outside of football. Then within that team, you are so connected from learning everything about everyone. Everyone just clicks instantly. Once we got over to Oslo, it was such a wild experience. The parade in itself, you lose your voice. It's gone. You sing, you chant, you hear the other people singing their chants. You're like, oh my God, that sounds amazing. And you just get this adrenaline rush. It's the most amazing experience I've ever done. That first day just blows your mind. You're praying for the town, you're waving your country's flag, being like, yeah, this is us, we're going to win it this year. And obviously everyone else is saying the exact same thing. They're all doing their own little chants. And just having people on the streets wave and clap you, seeing you as who you are, and you're just like, I'm here to fight for this cup. This is why I'm here. And it gives you that pride. You become like not a person again, but you become yourself again, just walking within that. You got your pride back. And then when you step onto that pitch for your first national anthem, people are crying, singing their anthem. It's like the emotions go insane, and everyone's doing their speeches beforehand, and you're just sobbing, thinking, oh my God, I'm here, I've made it. And then when you, like you said about playing on the cups and maybe the red cards or blue cards come out, you don't see it happen. It's very rare you get the blue cards in, because the reds don't come in that often, because people want to stay on the pitch, because you want to play every minute you can. You want to get all the game time, because if you get that red card, you're done for the whole tournament. You could be done for that whole day of play, and you're like, I'm not wasting my time being sat on the pitch side. I'm here to play for my country. And it gives that different aspect to the game. So you're not crawling, you're not fighting with other players. There's more passion in the game. So you are more excited to play than just as not like professional footballers to get paid a lot for it. So it's a bit more riff-raff with it. Also, when it comes to you playing for your country, to improve yourself, you want to be on that pitch. And then when it came to the end of the tournaments, we got down to, I think it was the last cup. I think it was the Shield Cup, I think it was. Standing on that stage, receiving that cup, jumping around the stages. We were all going berserk, thinking, yeah, we've done it. We've got our photos. We had Michael Sheen there supporting us at the time. And he was also jumping on the stage, being really excited. We were like, oh my God, it's a celebrity on stage with us. Getting really, really excited. And you think afterwards, it's like when you go home, you have the parties afterwards, you have the reunions. You think then, that's it. I've had my moment. I'm done. Nothing else is going to happen now. But it doesn't just stop there. You can become a volunteer. You can become a referee. You can even help out coaching. There's not a stop to after you've done football. You've got that extra steps you can take. There's no end to it. And that's what I find amazing. And that's when I got my continuing then to the story was me being offered a training course for the referees. And I was like, I don't want to be a referee. I don't like them. I've always disliked referees when playing the game. It's not for me. And they were like, go on, give it a try. And I was like, fine, I'll give it a go. No, I dislike them so much. Went to the training, I think it was in Cardiff, and I enjoyed it more than I thought I would. I think it was like you said, you see the aspect of the game from a different side, and it was more challenging than what you expect it to be. Because I think I'd done my first refereeing in the Cardiff Homeless World Cup in 2019. And the first time I stood in that pitch as a ref, I was like, that my whistle shaking. Couldn't blow the whistle, thinking, oh God, I can't make any mistakes. This is live on YouTube. Can't make a mistake. And it just flew by, like blink of an eye. And it was finished. I was like, oh my God, I did it. That's amazing. But the funniest part was, before it all started in Cardiff, my face was put on all the posters throughout Cardiff. And I was like, oh no, that's me, and all my family and friends were posting it. It was crazy. And I was just like, oh my God, it's like I'm kind of mini famous now.
Yeah.
in my hometown. I was like, oh, okay. And I was like, oh, this is you. And I'm like, Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It gives you that excitement, but when it came to the referee side, it was more challenging in a different way, where you obviously weren't out to win a cup. You were there to control the game, but also make it fun. But becoming into a new family with the referees was amazing, because it's, like you said, it's a whole different game. And you think, because some of these people who are referees, not all of them have come as a former player. And you think, oh, they're not going to accept me. I'm as a former player just coming into this, hoping for the best. But it's not like that. They're so accepting. They just brought me in, taught me everything. And it's like a second family now. We're talking all the time on WhatsApp. It's really, really good. But when it came to the games, I would say, like you said about the cards, you try not to give them. And obviously with the different language barriers, you're trying to control the game mostly with like body language.
Mm-hmm.
And you find it does get across quite easily just by like certain looks. And everyone knows like all the hand signals for certain kicks, penalties. It's sort of like I said, it translates to any language.
Yeah.
It's so easily done.
And I think that's quite
amazing.
amazing. I think that's the quite amazing part of it, is in this international diversity, you're able to just still play this game and get your message across as a referee to everyone, despite what nation or what country they're coming from. I just think it's so amazing that, and then you coming from the player to the referee, seeing that, getting a different set of tools, getting a different set of responsibilities, and it helping you in a different way. And that makes me think of just all the other roles people have, from coordinators to people that help on the pitch to people, like just all the different roles that are offered to people and the ways that it could help people, and people can switch roles and do this time and that next time. Mel, I want to go over to you a little bit. 70 countries. I mean, from a conversation with a friend in a bar to 70 countries. That has to be challenging. How do you get these countries involved? Do you send invites out? Are there people working in these countries that are aware of the homeless population and send them to you? What is the way in which you're able to organize 70 plus countries to be a part of these tournaments?
Yeah, well, I mean, the first thing to say is way beyond our wildest dreams. And when we were coming up with this idea, we have pretty wild dreams. So this is way beyond even that. So, being involved in 70 countries or 70 countries part of our network is pretty amazing. And the world, although it's a small place, is actually a very big place. So in terms of organizing the event, it's challenging. But the way we're structured is that we have one partner per country. So in Wales, for example, the Street Soccer Wales, and that partner organizes the day-to-day work that's working with homeless people when they first come to the programs, and then, selecting the teams and getting the teams to come to our event. So we have 70 of those. So it's not like we're a very small team that in some senses very deliberately centrally. It's really part of a whole network that's operating globally. And then we're responsible then for the annual event, which is challenging. Getting former homeless people or homeless people across borders is not easy. It's the biggest challenge. Sometimes it doesn't work because they become even more stricter in terms of some of the travel, and so that's a really big challenge. But we always get there. We don't necessarily always get every team there, and that's a seriously big challenge. But it's interesting when you speak with governments where cities are hosting it. They actually get what we're about, and they actually want to be really, really helpful. Unfortunately, you come across administration and bureaucracy and basically stupidness, really, that sometimes stops this. But generally, in principle, countries get it because they understand actually this is really positive and impactful and constructive, so they want to be connected with it. So we have those challenges. And so everything every year is a mountain. Yeah, the way I would describe it, we've got to get up the mountain, and then it's really hard work. It's really difficult. We've got a fantastic team of people, a lot of volunteers around the world doing stuff, all working to the same aim. And it wouldn't work without them, to be quite honest. And it wouldn't work out with the players as well, who are really doing a lot in terms of their training and their dedication. Then we get to the top of the mountain, the summit, which is always beautiful. I always say to people, come and watch an event. You will be inspired. I promise you, you will. It's the way the world should be. But then, of course, we go back down to the other side of the mountain. We've got to go up another mountain. So that's the way we are, and we're geared up for that. More recently, COVID was horrible for us. I mean, obviously, it was horrible for everybody, but for our organization, it was bad because we had to cancel the events 3 years running because obviously we couldn't get players moving, etc. And it was difficult, the organization, because then we kind of lost sponsors and so on and so forth, as you might imagine. So it's difficult, but we're back on the road again now, and cities are keen to host in the future. We hope to get more countries involved. We've got some different projects going, and all the time we're looking at practical ways forward. So the referees is one example, because it started off with one referee who wanted to volunteer. He was a professional referee to come to an event, and then other referees joined in, and then we started the program to train up former players as referees, which Sarah's come. So it's a solution in itself, because it's interesting. There's not enough referees in the world, and so we've gone, hey, we can train up referees, and there's jobs for people potentially in different countries. And as you were saying, I think correctly, the power of the football is the one language. You see, the referees can have a sign or do whatever, and everybody understands it. And it's a very simple game. You kick the ball and then you try and get in the goal. Okay, if you get more than the other side, then you win the game. That's all. It's really simple. But having the referees has been something that's worked. But then, a lot of our partners in the 70 countries now are run by former players, actually. And they get huge respect from people who are homeless, and their coaching certificates, et cetera. So what we're trying to do is, everything builds on itself. It feeds off itself. And we tell the stories, and former players like Sarah tell a story that inspire others, that bring other people to the table. So we try and create a momentum and a movement which is about change and positive change through football.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing all of that. This is, like you said, it's beyond your wildest dreams. It wasn't even my dream, and it's beyond my wildest dream. Because this is just such an amazing, I'm looking at the webpage right now. It's just such an amazing organization you have here, Mel, and the volunteers and everyone that works with you. What advice or what words of insight could you give to someone similarly who has an idea or has something that they're concerned about, whether it's the environment, whether it's issues of rights for women, issues of rights for the homeless, issues of rights for animals, anything that people feel truly passionate about to turn into a movement in this way? What words of insight and what words of inspiration would you have for them? And also to you, Sarah, you went through the hardship of that many people go through, but many people don't go through. And you are able to use the Homeless World Cup and the tools of the Homeless World Cup to lift yourself out of this. So what advice would you have to anyone who is enduring hardship in this moment? Maybe, Mel, you could start first.
Sure. I mean, I think my message is actually quite simple to people. We all need to do something, so therefore do something. But we don't have to make it kind of hugely grand, so don't get put off. Tiny things, tiny steps that you can do that are constructive, be they about volunteering or setting up a social enterprise. And some of us are more enterprising than others. It's just part of our DNA. Then do it, and don't be frightened to do it, because it's important what you do. And even if this is a tiny thing, it can make a big difference. So just go ahead and do it. Don't be inhibited. Go for it. Do it. And there are other people around. There's networks now of social entrepreneurs that will provide you with advice, mentoring, support out there. We have again, I use this word a lot, kind of family around the world, to kind of, people have the same DNA. But the one thing I would advise is don't say, hey, I'm going to have to change the world. So, I'm going to take on all these huge responsibilities. You don't have to do that at the beginning. It's just small things. So if you think about our journey, we started off with just a ball, and it was going to be like, like two teams, and we never knew we were going to be this size, and we never knew that referees were going to be such an important part, and the potential. It just grows organically, and your passion for whatever it is you're doing, starting small, will connect with other people for sure, and therefore it starts growing. And concentrate not on the growth but on the impact. So my advice to anybody is just do small things, but do something. The world is I think getting itself into a very, very difficult place, and a lot of people are just excluded in the climate issue. So we need to do something, and so we need creative ideas. We need people who can make things happen, and if we all connect together, then that's how you create the change. So that would be my pearl of wisdom, if you like.
Love it. Step by step, block by block, build. Love it.
Yes, exactly.
And Sarah,
I would say mine would be any idea or dreams are not limited. It's just taking the time and the patience to get to where you needed to get. Don't rush it. Not everything happens in a day. It can take time, and it's needing them resources. Go out there and get what you need to get where you want to get to, because it can happen. There's no no's. So nothing is unreachable. It's like in my circumstances, I thought I would never get a job where I am now, event coordinator now. All of my CV I wrote was like scenarios, were all related to street football or homeless World Cup and refereeing. How do you handle a bad situation? Referee solution, this solution. Any little experience can help you get to where you need to get to. It's all just takes a little bit of time and patience, but as long as you've got the resources there, you get the help that you need. It's there. You just need to grab it when you can. That's the best one I can give.
there you go. Yeah, that was that. I felt that one myself. That was like advice to me right there. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you both of you for being on this podcast, All Power to the Developing, which I just said. We named this podcast All Power to the Developing because we really wanted to give light to all the people around the world who give power to people who are developing. When you hear that phrase, all power to the developing, what is something that comes to your mind?
More power to the people, I would say. Give yourself your own power, not having to go by everyone else's choices, be unique.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would share Sarah's view. I think it's about us individually and collectively taking action, which is positive. No, I'm there's a lot to moan about. Okay, there's a lot wrong, so we could go on about it, but we go on and on about it. Okay, but let's do some things then that are positive. So all power means collective action, working together, identifying that we have similar values, which are about simple things like fairness, community, neighborhood, etc. Just being human beings to one another. Simple things that we want, and we can join together, and that then creates the power for people who are developing things.
Definitely. Well, you heard it there. This was a great episode of All Power to the Developing. If people would like to learn more about the Homeless World Cup, Mel, where can people go to learn more about the Homeless World Cup and probably learn more about you?
Yeah, I think simply go to our website, which is homelessworldcup.org, so all one word, .org. And I mean, in there you can find out all about us. Our event this year in 2024 is going to be in Seoul in South Korea. There's a Netflix movie coming out towards the end of March. All sorts of things going on. And I would just say to people, if you want, you can join in. We're always looking for volunteers. Our street soccer partners in 70 odd countries are looking for volunteers, sponsors, supporters. You know, again, just back to the title of this talk, it's about join in and let's kind of work together and power to the developing and change the world accordingly. But our uber aim, if you like, is not to exist, because there shouldn't be any homelessness in the world. Okay, so and people sometimes say, look, Mel, you've just been really naive. But I maybe, but I just don't think we should have a world where there's any homelessness. And so, but by people joining in, and as I want to repeat, by doing small things together, we can actually change things. And if we want to, We put people on the moon, you know. We created the internet, blah, blah, blah. All these things which are amazing. As human beings, we can end homelessness if we want to.
Yes, yes. And that's a very powerful last sentiment from Mel right there. We have a lot of work to do to end this massive global problem of homelessness, and it starts with you, one person at a time. Thank you for listening to All Power to the Developing. I'm your host, Desire Wanden. All Power to Developing is available on most and all digital streaming platforms. Also, you can write to us at podcast@eastsideinstitute.org to let us know which episode you like and what you liked about the episode. We would love to read your response at the end of the episode, so please write to us. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and let us know what you love about the podcast. And we have a lot more in store for you in the year of 2024. Thank you again, Mel, and thank you again, Sarah. And once again, this has been All Power to the Developing. Thank you. All Power to the Developing was made possible in part by Growing Social Therapeutics, the Baylor Wolf Fund.